and this is MUKHA. In today's episode, I'm going to be guiding you through the journey to forward-facing splits, Hanumanasana as they call it in Sanskrit. So this is one of the advanced and very challenging seated postures, and it requires a lot of hamstring flexibility. In splits, what I would say is make sure that you're really warmed up before you would even attempt going into the full variation of the pose, because it's one of these postures that is so demanding on our ligaments and our hamstring. So it's important that you are completely warmed up before you attempt the full posture. In any case, I hope you find this tutorial helpful. Let's come and meet on the mat, everyone.
The first posture that I would recommend to practice is the great hip opening and hamstring stretch, none other than the side lunge. This is a great posture that opens through your hip and hamstrings. You can keep your hands to prayer at the heart, or if you need some support, you can also reach your hands down to the floor. If it's too much to sink all the way down, stay at a middle setting until you feel comfortable to go lower. The next pose is PRISTHASANA. Keep your front foot pointing forwards and your back foot is faced out towards either 1 o'clock or 10 o'clock, so essentially your hips are square. You can place your hands on blocks at high, medium, or low setting, as long as you're keeping the integrity of your front hamstring straight here. Lower down the chest onto your thighs, and then perhaps when you feel ready, you can remove the blocks and let your hands rest down to the mat. For a deeper variation, have your palms facing the other way round, so wrists facing forwards and fingertips facing back. We can use our downward facing dog to intensify and mirror a split pose. Heels together and point the toes out to the sides. Start by lifting one leg all the way up into the sky, so almost 180 degrees here. If it's too much, of course, you can keep your foot halfway, but what I'd like you to concentrate on here is make sure that the heel of your standing leg is firmly planted on the mat. Do the best that you can to square off the shoulders as much as possible. One common error we see is we start to walk the hands backwards, and this almost becomes like a standing split variation. And although this isn't necessarily incorrect, it's just important to remember the posture that you're trying to come into. In this case, we want to keep our hands and our feet separated as though we're in a downward facing dog stance. Any forward fold is going to be very helpful for us to increasing our flexibility in hamstrings. So this is demonstrating a standing forward fold, UTTHANASANA. Keep your knees bent to start off with and concentrate on layering your chest down to your thighs. You can start to bend and extend the knees, and as soon as you feel more open, feel free to lift the sitting bones higher and pull your chest down across the thighs. You can do this variation seated as well in Paschimottanasana. Try and avoid rounding your back as much as possible. The next posture is JANU SIRSASANA, which is our head to knee pose. Try and keep the extended leg as straight as possible and release your hands down wherever feels comfortable. Perhaps after a few breaths, think about drawing your chest down towards the thighs and lengthen the spine as much as you are folding forwards into this stretch. To feel a deeper sense of length, keep your front toes flexed. Next, we look at how the low lunge can help increase flexibility in our hip region. So ANJANEYASANA promotes extension and deep flexion of the hip socket, which is very crucial when it comes to moving into your full splits. So a few options here is to have your palms on the floor, which is your lizard pose, or you can keep your hands on your hips and take a few pulses up and down. So a great way to practice full splits is to first tackle your half split pose. This is a great hamstring stretch. I like placing my hands on 2 blocks to avoid rounding the spine. So you really want to think again about drawing the chest down onto your thighs. You can straighten your front leg and try and flex the front foot as much as possible. You can even go lower here and sink your glutes down to your heels if that feels good. And then maybe take the blocks down to lowest setting, or if you don't need the blocks at all, you can remove them out of the way and just let your hands rest onto the floor directly. Stay here for a few deep breaths and just enjoy this passive stretch. Next, we look at the ways that props, specifically blocks, can help us in coming into the splits. What I like to suggest to my students is having the 2 blocks right next to your hips and pulsing up and down. It's important to try and keep your hips as square as possible. And one little tip that helps is to tuck your back foot so that you feel as though your hips are squaring. Another option is to place the block underneath your front hamstring. This can give a little bit of support here as you stay in this pose. Some common errors to look out for here is when we feel as though we're ready to come into full splits, we notice that our back knee starts to kink out to the side a little bit. So take a look back. Make sure that the knee is facing down to the mat. Again, tucking the back toes really starts to help to remind us to square off the hips. You can rock from side to side and just ease your way down very gently. So now that we're ready to enter the full monkey pose, Hanumanasana, perhaps come from half splits and extend your legs forwards very slowly. So keep your front heel pressing down to the earth. Again, tucking your back toes, so trying your best to keep the hips squared off. Maybe rocking from side to side or pulsing up and down is a nice way to settle into the pose. From here, you can bring the arms up or have the hands to the heart. Remember to move slowly in the pose and enjoy the journey of learning your splits.
Hi guys! We hope that you found that tutorial helpful for you. Remember that if it's not happening just yet, enjoy the journey of learning, because more often than not, when we come to that final place where we master the pose, the excitement is suddenly all over. So just be in the moment, enjoy your journey of learning, and drop me a note if you have any questions. Thank you everyone. Namaste.